Welcome to the Payroll Taxes and Workers' Comp configuration session for the Sage Intacct Construction payroll configuration. In this section, we're going to talk specifically about payroll taxes, what to do and how to upload them, and how to set up your workers' comp and general liability, which in Sage Intacct is treated as a tax, not a pay modifier or a fringe. So we're not going to spend a ton of time with taxes, but I just want to give you a few pointers on getting the taxes uploaded and set up in Sage Intacct for payroll. If I go over to taxes under payroll setup taxes, you'll notice there is a button to import the taxes, and those can be imported. And I'm going to walk you through some recommendations for that. One of the most important things you should do, and this is in general as well for payroll, is when you're inside the payroll modules, make sure you click on the little question mark early in the process, because inside this question mark is the knowledge base for the construction payroll. And what you can do is it's going to require you to log yourself in, and it just requires a name and email address, very simple. But once you're logged in there, you'll have the ability to tag yourself to different areas in the system that you want notifications on. So one of those areas that would be very important for notifications would be for payroll taxes. If there's any changes or updates or when the new tax tables are out, you'll get notifications directly via email that those are ready to go. Now, as Banger, we'll make sure we provide you that information as well through Ask Richard, but, more the merrier here. So to get into the taxes, you can search for taxes. I usually like to go right into what's called configuration here. And if you click on configuration, you'll see down, if I scroll down, there's a lot of different areas in the system, but down here, you'll see taxes. And what I would recommend is clicking on this main title here called taxes. And when you do that, you're going to see a button over to the right that says follow. Now mine says following because I have already clicked it to say follow. And as long as you're logged in and you click on the follow, you'll be following this tax group. So any update that gets added to this tax area, you'll get triggered an email notification automatically. For example, if you'll notice, looks like there was some changes to the Utah state withholding tax that happened in June. So you would have gotten a notification for that. One of the other notes that you'll see here is a payroll tax import files. So if I click on payroll taxes import files, I can follow that as well. But this will give you explicit instructions on how to upload your taxes yourself, if you choose to do that, and the tax files that you need and which tax files you need. So all of these come via Excel files that you can download here. So for example, I'll download the 2025 federal tax, and it will download into your downloads folder, and I'll do the state as well. And you can use those later on. So if you want to go ahead and do your own tax files and upload them yourselves, you can. I would recommend reaching out via Q&A or Ask Richard, and we can assist you, especially up front in the configuration. We can assist you in getting your initial taxes uploaded in the system. And we'll talk about which ones you need to do yourself and how you do that next. But one of the reasons I usually recommend is reaching out to us is because we can assist and give you some tips and tricks on how to bring in taxes that you need. So for example, if I open up that taxed file, so I'll go ahead and open up that state tax file here. I'm going to open up my Excel and I'll show you that file. It's going to show you all 50 states plus a lot of standard local taxes that you can upload yourself. Now, not all the local taxes are available. Some you have to set up on your own, but things like Indiana and stuff like that, you can import those automatically. So if you just come and follow the instructions and you upload off of this file, you could get some taxes that you don't necessarily need. If you don't work in Hawaii, don't import Hawaii taxes. If you don't work in, Nebraska, don't upload Nebraska. So these are just Excel files. You have the capability to modify this file. So for example, if I just need to load Missouri, I can come down to here and I can get rid of these taxes that I don't want to upload. Or I can, copy and paste, but I can come down to here and say, I don't need these. You can delete them. You can save it as and just upload Missouri. So that'll make your tax list much cleaner when you go into the setup area. You don't have to scroll through all 50 states. So that's a big recommendation. We can help you with this. What we usually try and do is when you're in the first live session with us for payroll, we'll ask you, what states do you need for taxes? And we can help you upload those together. But you do have the capability of uploading your taxes here. And it's a very simple process. If I close this, if I go back into my tax list, I just click import. And then it'll ask you a wizard, which tax are you importing? You can skip the ones that you don't need. Let's say I'm just uploading a new state tax. So I can go right to progressive taxes, which is if one of your states is progressive, and I can import the rows. I can import federal. I can import Alabama. Okay, if there's specific tabs. So you can just follow that and get it into the system. But like I said, for the most part, we'll help you with that. We can take you through the process. We have additional, more detailed videos that you could look up on Ask Richard that will take you through this step by step. So in this scenario here, we're going to assume we got your taxes uploaded now. Please ignore the effective dates here. My taxes in this database is old. Yours should say, if I'm in 2025, it should say effective date 2025. So for example, these taxes are no good right now. I would want to upload some new taxes here. But as you can see, my taxes all come in, all my federal, US FIT. I do have Indiana in this demo environment. So see how I have to scroll through this and, just mucks it up a little bit. But it looks like in this demo, we brought in multiple states for state income taxes. Those are all configured. You shouldn't have to do anything with them. The taxes that you'll have to configure on your own are going to be any specific local taxes that aren't set up in here. I know one example that we set up a lot with our client base is the St. Louis locals. We'll set them up. You're able to come into taxes here and click Create New and set up a new tax based on different rules. Is it based on hourly percentage? Is it a flat rate? Is it an hourly rate? So there's different percentage of earnings. There's different rules that will give you different boxes for it. And again, Q&A, let's do it in the live class together. So anything that you're unsure of, just wait. We'll do it in the live class. And then the other tax that you do need to set up is your state unemployment taxes. Those you can import in the unemployment rates. Actually, let's go and do that. Let's go in here and show you an import. So let's go into import. And I believe if I import, let me see here. Import rows for percents. I believe I can get the state taxes here. Okay, so if I upload the state unemployment taxes are in the federal file. So if I go into federal here, and I'm going into the percent of earnings taxes. So just to give you an example of how this will work, we'll let it upload and read it. And then it will give you a mapping of the columns to import. You shouldn't have to touch these columns. They should already map up automatically. We'll just wait for that to finish. And you'll see here, which one do you want? There's different tabs on the Excel sheets. We want the percent of earnings. And we're going to import the percent of earnings. And I'll come over to here and see how it already mapped these columns for us. You shouldn't have to touch these. I'll just hit continue. And it should show us what we want to import. So again, if you want to, even here, you could delete the rows that you don't need before you hit save. But you can see here, it's going to bring in my federal, FICA, Medicare, FUTA, but also my different state unemployment, my SUTA taxes. So I'm just going to bring these all in for this environment, but you might want to, just check off which ones you want to bring in. I'm just going to hit submit. And then you would continue on to your next section. I'm going to go ahead and skip the video, and I'm going to skip these manually to save you some agony of watching me click the skip button. All right, with the magic of editing, we've just gone through and skipped all of these different taxes for now. So I just want to upload my state unemployment taxes. I'm just going to click save, and it'll upload those taxes for us pretty quickly. Boom. So now if I go up to payroll taxes, now you should see some new taxes on the list. So there's all our SUTA taxes. So all of that comes in. So for example, if I have Missouri SUTA, I can click on it. It's going to have effective date of 2025. It's going to fill all that category information for you. And it also does bring in the limits. So the only thing you need to fill out is what's the employer rate. We're not going to fill out, it doesn't know your individual company employer rates, so you'll have to fill that out here, 2.15%. Fill it out. Everything else should be good to go here. The only caveat here for your state unemployment taxes is if you have payroll for multiple entities, those entities probably have different rates. So what usually you'll do is you're going to have to give it an entity-specific rate. So for example, Missouri SUTA, I might duplicate here and call one GC Missouri SUTA or something like that. You can get creative with your IDs, and that is then I can use it for that entity, for GC, and then maybe TD for Timberline Development if I have different rates. So you can come into here and hit duplicate. And now I can say I also have a TC rate for Missouri SUTA, and for them it's 3.25. And you'd want to fix your effective date, but I'll just leave it to today. I'll just do January 1. Save. So now you can set up individual entity or company rates for your SUTA that way. So the SUTA you're going to have to come in and fill out. Everything else should be good to go, and except for local taxes, you'll have to fill those out. In addition to your taxes, this is also where you're going to set up your workers' comp and possibly things like general liability if you want to track that. So for your workers' comp, you will have to create a new one. And if I click create new, typically it is going to be a classification based. It's based on code. And we've seen it the majority of the time is going to be classification based percent. So you'll click that, give it an effective date into the beginning of the year so you can test. And then usually it's either workers' comp and the state or state workers' comp. Up to you how you want to handle it. What's important for workers' comp is that the first one you set up, you'll need to establish a tax category. So we want to use a tax category of WC. Now you see this here in mine because I have some demo data, but for you, you probably won't have WC. And so when you type in WC the first time, it's going to look like this. It's going to say create WC, and then you just click on that. So you're basically building this list to use later on. And what you want for workers' comp, especially if you have multiple states, is you want a tax category set up for WC, because then when you set up your codes later on, you can say this code is always for any tax that has a category of WC. So it can be for multiple states. Okay, so make sure it has a category of WC. And then the state would be, in this case, Missouri. And then here under classifications is where you would hit add. And now you would put in your classifications. And most likely it would be just an employer rate. And maybe it's 0.568 for the 8810. And then, what else do I have? 55. I'm not sure the exact codes, but you just fill them out, and maybe that's 3.25. And you just keep going. You hit this little plus button, and you add all of the the different codes that you might have for workers' comp, and you fill them out like that with the employer rate. Typically, for the tax act attributes, workers' comp is in most cases based on straight pay, but again, you're going to want to check with your insurance company and whatever state you're paying into. And set it up accordingly. If we leave both these on no right now, then it's going to calculate off of gross pay. Most cases off of straight pay, which means don't calculate off the overtime portion, just the regular portion of overtime, which is exclude premium uplift. Okay, so that's going to give straight pay overtime and regular hours, but only at the regular basis. And it'll tell you here on the little question mark. If it's just based on regular pay and no overtime is factored at all, then you want to select yes on this one. That's going to not include overtime pay, the whole portion of it, just regular pay. Like I said, most common is set up with exclude no for premium and yes for the uplift. Down in here, this would be for your reporting for your Atrix. We'll get into that in a later video. for your year-end and quarter reporting. We're not going to need anything here for workers' comp, but we'll check out some future videos for that as well. And so that will set up your workers' comp. I'll click Save here. And now if I look at my menu for taxes, and you could, search on, I can type in WC, and now you can see here, looks like we already had some others set up as well, but now we have a Missouri workers' comp, we have an Oregon workers' comp. If I click on that, you'll see there's all the codes they put in for Oregon, but it has a WC category. And then we'll show you later on where you can grab those codes from in the employee setup, in the cost code setup, in the job setup. There's a lot of different places it can grab those workers' comp codes from. Okay. A lot of times people will also want to track general liability insurance, and they use the workers' comp setup to get that information. So a lot of times, if you want to set up general liability, usually what happens is you take your setup that you've already done with workers' comp, and you hit duplicate. You just call it GL. Still going to be a tax category of WC because we want it to pull in the classification codes. This isn't typically state-based, so you usually take that off. We'll give it a January 1. And then usually it's the same rate per the code, but that's, again, based on your company needs. So let's just do this, and then it might be something like that. Okay. And then again, is it straight pay, gross pay? You have to determine all that. And then when we get into the next videos, you'll see how you can put this all together on the project itself to say, we want to calculate general liability on this project. We'll just hit save. That should be it for taxes. Like I said, taxes is an area you want to work with us directly on in a Q&A in your live payroll session. We'll make sure your taxes are good to go before you go live and during your testing. We'll tweak it as needed.